The next speaker is Mr. M. A. Cassim. He will speak on the changing face of the LTTE, ascertaining the threat of the Tamil diaspora's use of public diplomacy in Sri Lanka. Mr. Cassim is a postgraduate student at the General Sir John Kotlawala Defence University and is following an MSc in Security and Strategic Studies. Over to you, Mr. Cassim.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Chair, distinguished guests, my fellow panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'll be presenting the conceptual framework I worked out based on a review of literature on the topic of the changing face of LTTE, especially Tamil diaspora's use of public diplomacy. I'll start off with showing you the conceptual model, and I'll walk you through each and every variable in this model just to give an idea where I'm planning to go with this model. So as you can notice, there are 4 variables. One is diaspora's use of public diplomacy, and 2 moderators affecting the use of diplomacy on Sri Lanka's national security. One is legitimacy, other one is efficacy. So I'll explain each of these variables. So before I begin, I'll introduce you to certain concepts I'm trying to elaborate here. First, the diaspora, or the diaspora, for those who are familiar with that pronunciation. Who are they and what do they do? For the purpose of this presentation, I will be looking at subcategory of diaspora called the politically motivated diaspora. Because initially the study on diaspora started from social sciences, and during the evolution of the conceptualization, there was a new entity called politically motivated diaspora. These emerged as a result of political conflicts, and normally they tend to maintain traumatic identities, links to their home countries. What are the differences between the political diaspora and a regular diaspora? Now, regular diaspora, as you know, they act as an expatriate community. They remit foreign exchange to their home countries. They send technological expertise, and they help strengthen the economies and the livelihood of the native, the country members. Now, for instance, countries like India, they give very high emphasis to maintaining links with their diaspora communities because they are regular diaspora. The political diaspora sit in stark contrast to regular diaspora because they tend to lobby their homeland governments, they organize demonstrations, and they mobilize for radical causes, especially they use a transnational space for that, and they broadcast hate speech, engaging in fundraising for radical groups, and worst case, they even take up arms to fight the government in the homeland. And according to Smith and Stairs, based on a broad range of diaspora communities, they identified that except in a handful of instances, political diaspora tend to disturb the peace in the home countries rather than to bring peace. Can we consider the diaspora as political diaspora as a non-state actor? Koinova suggests 3 requisites for us to treat an entity as non-state. First thing is the entity should be autonomous from the state. Now, political diaspora, especially in the scope of my presentation, the Tamil diaspora is autonomous from the state of Sri Lanka, or any state for that matter. And they engage in the transnational framework, and they operate between states. And they have aspirations for political change. So, since the Tamil diaspora fulfills all these 3 categories, we can safely assume we can treat them as non-state actors in the transnational space. Now, the second main concept, public diplomacy. Now, this photo shows you a group of members of the Tamil diaspora community having a discussion with British shadow member of the shadow government. So, these are the activities they engage in, and let's see what public diplomacy entails and how and in what ways do the diaspora community engage in this public diplomacy. Common understanding of public diplomacy was that it has been associated with states, an affair exclusively reserved to states. But due to issues like globalization and transnational politics, even non-state actors have taken up public diplomacy endeavors. This has allowed a lot of non-state actors to achieve their political goals without resorting to armed conflicts. So that is another aspect of this public diplomacy. Contrary to popular belief, people think any act of international communication is public diplomacy, but it is not. Now let's see what defines public diplomacy. There are two requisites. First thing is a non-state actor should be minimally institutional. Second is the objectives of the non-state actor should be political in nature. Second one is straightforward. First one, what is meant by minimally institutional? According to Port, a basic organizational structure. The non-state actor should have at least a basic organizational structure. They should have clear objectives. They should have stable representation. Now the term representation repeats in subsequent slides, so I'll explain it in detail. And they need to have coordinated activities. So this clearly brings the Tamil diaspora community as a non-state actor and engaging in public diplomacy. This is another photo of one of their meetings with a high-profile politician in Europe. Now, what is the purpose of my research? Here, what I'm trying to see is the capacity of a non-state actor's use of public diplomacy. Port has identified three factors that defines or determines the capacity or effectiveness of public diplomacy against a state. First is, they need support from the public or the constituents they purport to represent. Secondly, they have to have relations with other actors in the international community. Third one is, they need the social perception of their reputation. So these three are the factors that derive the conceptual model I am going to explain. Coming back to the conceptual model, now we understand what is the diaspora's use of public diplomacy, and now I'll introduce you to the concepts of legitimacy and efficacy. Those are the two moderators that affect to what extent a non-state actor's use of public diplomacy will affect a state actor. First moderator is the legitimacy. Now, we all understand legitimacy as far as a state is concerned is straightforward because states derive legitimacy through political democratic processes like elections. Edwards says, as far as non-state actors are concerned, they also need legitimacy, and he defines legitimacy for non-state actors as the right that the non-state actors have to exercise power in society based on public support. So they also are fully capable of exercising their power and derive legitimacy. This is, I made a small diagram based on the review I did. Why do they need legitimacy? Now, middle you see the diaspora non-state actor, and you have two, the activities go in two directions. One is they intervene, the red color arrow, and they apply, the green color arrow. What do you mean by intervene? They, in order to achieve their political goals, first they have to intervene with the global governing organizations in their decision-making process. There they need legitimacy from the governing organizations. Secondly, apply. When they apply those decisions and the outcomes they obtain for the benefit of their constituents, the people whom they claim that they represent, they need legitimacy from the people they represent. Now we identify two different places where they need legitimacy. From governing organizations, they want legitimacy in the form of representation. Representation means to what extent, the quality or quantity of the public whose values, ideas, grievances they share. So in the in example of Tamil diaspora, they have to be representing the ideas, values, the grievances of the general Sri Lankan Tamil community in order to achieve this legitimacy from governing organizations. Second aspect of this legitimacy is they need it from the people whom they claim to represent, that is the Tamil community, in the form of deliberation. To what extent they can put these things into action. That brings us to the second moderator, efficacy. That is the one on the bottom. Efficacy means the capacity to satisfy the demands they were designed to by achieving objectives and producing policies. Now, in essence, efficacy is also part of legitimacy. Now, again, I'll take you back to the first diagram. You see the ash color arrow that links governing organizations to application. Efficacy is the force that allows the non-state actor to put things to action. Because in view of the organs of power, they need legitimacy to execute those actions. This is another photo of such a high-profile meeting. So in a nutshell, what is the purpose of this? This allows us to understand how and when the diasporic public diplomacy activities can fail. It can fail in three different ways. First, when their policies are not accepted by the constituency they supposedly represent. That is, they lose the legitimacy from the people. Secondly, they don't represent the real grievances of the constituents. That is, then they lose the legitimacy from the governing bodies. Thirdly, the real grievances of the constituents are not addressed in a timely manner. Again, they lose efficacy and legitimacy from the public. So, in other words, long-term failure or a lack of visible results would cause the diasporic groups to lose legitimacy, and ultimately their public and diplomatic endeavors will fail. What kind of policy prospects will this research give us? It gives
Kindly
us...
wind up your presentation. Yes. We're short of time.
Yes. So let me finish it quickly. So it allows us to determine the sources of legitimacy and also ascertain the true strength of the public, the Tamil diaspora groups. So let me finish my presentation with a statement by the famous strategist Sun Tzu. If you know your enemies and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. So we need to know ourselves and know where the threats are coming from. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The bottom line was that everyone should know the enemies.